ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Truth is high, but higher still is truthful living. Shri Guru Granth Sahib, Ang 62. Beloved Sangat, here we find ourselves in the heart of a paradox. On one level, truth is this grand abstract notion that transcends the individual. It's like the summit of a mountain, a lofty peak that seems to represent the ultimate destination of spiritual aspiration. Many of us, in our earnestness, chased after truth as though it were a thing, a static object to be grasped, held and declared. But here's where the teachings of the Guru introduces us to a subtlety that is often overlooked. You see, truth in its purest form isn't merely an idea or a doctrine. It's not something you can contain in a book or even in a thought. The moment you try to capture it, it slips away like sand through your fingers. This is why truth, as an ideal, is indeed high. It's exalted, something to strive for, yes, but it's also elusive. But then, Guruji takes us a step further. Higher still, they say, is truthful living. This is where we shift from the abstract to the concrete, from the lofty peaks of philosophy to the everyday ground of our existence. Truthful living isn't about adhering to a rigid set of dogmas or ethical codes. It's about embodying truth in the very fabric of your being. It's about living in such a way that your actions, your words, and your intentions are in harmony with the deepest reality of who you are. Think of it as the difference between the map and the territory. The map can show you the way. It can point you towards the truth, but it's not the truth itself. The territory, the real terrain of your life, with all its messiness, its challenges and its beauty, that's where truth must be lived. That's where truth takes on flesh and blood, where it becomes something more than just a high idea. So, beloved Sangat, what Guruji is telling us is this: don't just get lost in the pursuit of truth as an abstract ideal. Let it seep into your bones, into the way you live each moment. Let it be reflected in your kindness, your integrity, your humility. Because it's not enough to know the truth or to speak about it. You must be the truth, in action, in presence, in the way you move through the world. And when you do that, you find that truth isn't something out there to be discovered. It's somewhere that you are. Something that you live. And in that living, you discover the ultimate truth, that you and the truth were never separate to begin with. Truth is high, but higher still is truthful living. You see, at first glance, this statement from the Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji appears straightforward, a clear, almost simple directive. Yet, as with all great spiritual insight, it contains a depth that unfolds only when we approach it with the right kind of attention. The kind that isn't trying to solve a puzzle, but is simply present with the words, letting them reveal themselves to us. You see, in the world of spiritual seekers, there's often this immense attraction to the notion of truth with a capital T. We think of truth as something supreme, an ultimate reality that stands above all else. It's the goal of philosophers, scientists, and theologians alike, this quest to unearth the one, unchanging truth that defines the nature of existence. Truth in this sense is high, it's elevated, a pinnacle of human aspiration. We admire it from a distance, often speaking about it in reverent tones, as if it were a distant star whose light we might glimpse if we only were wiser or pure enough. But here's where things get interesting, because while truth is indeed high, the Shri Guru Granth Sahib suggests that something even higher is at play. Truthful living. Now, what does this mean? Well, to grasp this, we have to step back and consider what it means to be truly alive. Most of us, most of the time, are caught up in abstractions. We're thinking about life rather than living it. We're caught in our heads in a world of concepts, judgments, and analyses. We're trying to figure out the truth, what's right, what's wrong, what's real, what's illusion. And in doing so, we distance ourselves from the immediacy of the present moment, from the living reality of being. But beloved Sangat, life as it's actually lived isn't an abstraction. It's not something that can be fully captured by thoughts or words. Life is a process, a flow, a dance. It's messy, dynamic, and ever-changing. To truly live is to engage with this flow, to be present with it. Let go of the need to grasp at some ultimate truth, and instead to embody truthfulness in the very way we move through the world. When Guruji says that truthful living is higher than truth, they're pointing us towards this very realization. They're saying that the real measure of truth isn't found in what you believe or what you profess, but in how you live. It's not about holding on to some fixed idea of what is true, but about being true. True to yourself, true to others, true to the moment as it unfolds. Truthful living, then, isn't about adhering to a strict moral code or following a set of rigid principles. It's about being in tune with the deeper reality of who you are and acting from that place of alignment. It's about recognizing that life itself is the ultimate teacher, and that by being fully present with it, by responding to it with authenticity and openness, you're participating in truth in a way that transcends mere intellectual understanding. Beloved Sangat, imagine, if you will, a tree. The truth of the tree is in the way it grows, the way it responds to the sunlight, the way it bends in the wind, the way its roots seek out water in the earth. The tree isn't concerned with understanding what it means to be a tree. It simply lives as a tree, and in doing so, it embodies the truth of its existence. Similarly, truthful living is about embodying the truth of your own existence. It's about being rooted in your own reality, growing and evolving in response to the conditions of your life. It's about recognizing that you're part of this vast, interconnected web of life, and that your actions, your thoughts, your words, all of these are expressions of the truth of who you are. So when Guruji tells us that truthful living is higher than truth, it's a reminder that spiritual wisdom isn't just about knowing or understanding. It's about being and doing. It's about bringing truth down from the lofty heights of abstraction and grounding it in the soil of everyday life. It's about realizing that the highest truth isn't something separate from you, something to be attained or achieved, but something that you live and express in each moment. In other words, the true wisdom isn't in seeking the truth as an object, but in becoming the truth as a subject. In realizing that your life, lived authentically, isn't that the highest expression of the truth? And when you live in this way, when your life itself becomes a manifestation of truth, you transcend the duality of seeking and finding. You discover that the truth you were searching for was never outside of you. It was in the very act of living truthfully all along. Beloved Sangat, let us cast our minds back to a village long before our time. There lived a man called Bhai Lalo. Now, Lalo wasn't what you might call a man of great stature or wealth. He didn't have the kind of riches that would turn heads or cause tongues to wag in admiration or envy. Instead, he was a simple carpenter, a man whose hands were worn and calloused from years of honest labour. His life was unassuming, much like the wooden planks he carved, but within him lay a profound connection to something greater, a truth that transcended the material world. One day, Guru Nanak Ji found his way to his village. Now, Guru Nanak Ji was a man who wandered not just physically, but spiritually, always in search of the essence of life, the truth that lies beneath the surface of our everyday experiences. They were drawn to those places and people where this truth shone most brightly, even if only in the humblest of circumstances. It was this inner light, this sense of integrity and oneness with the universe that brought him to the doorstep of Bhai Lalo. Bhai Lalo welcomed Guru Nanak Ji with open arms, offering what little he had, a simple meal of homemade bread and lentils. It was a meal made not from the riches of the earth, but from the purity of the heart. You see, Bhai Lalo didn't just work with his hands, he worked with his soul. Every action, every loaf of bread he baked was infused with the essence of honest living. He earned his livelihood through sheer hard work, with no thought of deceit or exploitation. For Bhai Lalo, life wasn't about accumulating wealth or status, but about living in harmony with the truth of his own being. Now, Sangat, contrast this with Malik Bago, a wealthy landlord of the village. Malik Bago lived in a grand mansion with an abundance of riches at his disposal. His wealth came not from honest labour, but from the sweat and toil of others, squeezed from the very lifeblood of the poor and needy. He hosted lavish feasts where the tables overflowed with the finest foods, rich and sumptuous, yet tainted by the dishonesty that had brought them into being. When word reached Malik Bago that Guru Nanak Ji had chosen to stay with the humble carpenter rather than his grand palace, his pride was wounded. How could the great Guru prefer the meagre offerings of a poor man over the opulence of his own table? In his mind, wealth equaled worth, and surely his feast was the more fitting choice for an enlightened being like Guru Nanak Ji. Driven by this ego, Malik Bago summoned Guru Nanak Ji to his home, demanding an explanation. Why? He asked. Why do you choose the dry bread of a poor carpenter over the lavish feast I've prepared? Now here, Sangat, here's where Guruji, with the insight of a sage and the simplicity of a child, offered a lesson that transcends the superficial values we often cling to. Without a word, they asked for a piece of Bhai Lalo's bread and a portion of Malik Bago's feast. Holding them in their hands, they squeezed each. Out of Bhai Lalo's simple bread flowed milk, pure and nourishing, while from Malik Bago's rich food, blood oozed forth, dark and thick. This wasn't some mere parlour trick, but a profound demonstration of spiritual truth. What Guru Nanak Ji revealed in that moment was the essence of honest living versus dishonest accumulation. Bhai Lallo's bread, though simple and plain, was imbued with the purity of his honest labour, the milk symbolising the nurturing and life-sustaining energy that comes from living in accordance with the truth. Malik Bhagor's feast, by contrast, was tainted by the blood of those he had exploited, the food itself carrying the weight of suffering and deceit. Guru Nanak Ji's lesson was clear. The value of what we produce, of what we offer to the world, isn't measured by its material grandeur, but by the honesty and integrity with which it's made. In choosing Bhai Lallo's humble offering over Malik Bhagor's feast, they weren't just making a statement about food. They were pointing with the deeper truth about life itself. Life, you see, isn't about what we accumulate, but about how we live. It's about whether we are in tune with the rhythms of the universe, whether we act with sincerity, compassion, and honesty. Bhai Lallo's bread was a manifestation of his truthful living, his actions in harmony with the deeper currents of existence. Malik Bhagor's breath, on the other hand, was a manifestation of ego, of a life lived out of balance, disconnected from the truth. In the end, Guru Nanak Ji was reminding us that the highest truth is not something abstract, something to be found in wealth or power, but something to be lived. It's found in the simplicity of a life lived with integrity, in the small everyday actions that align us with the deeper reality of who we are. Truth isn't just a concept, it's an action, a way of being. And when we live honestly, when we allow our actions to flow from the truth within us, we find that we are not just in touch with the truth, we are the truth. Beloved Sangat, we are the truth. So the story of Malik Bhagor and Bhai Lallo isn't just about a choice between two meals. It's a profound meditation on the nature of life itself, at what it means to live in harmony with the truth. It's a reminder that in the grand scheme of things, it's not what we have, but how we live that matters. And in this simple yet profound truth, we find the essence of Guru Nanak Ji's teachings, a lesson that resonates across time and space, inviting us all to live more honestly, more fully, and more truthfully. And so, beloved Sangat, living a life in truth isn't about clinging to some abstract notion of what's right or wrong, nor is it about accumulating moral or spiritual points. Rather, it's about being in harmony with the flow of existence, where every action, word, and intention springs from the deepest well of authenticity within us. It's about recognizing that truth isn't something external to be sought after, but something to be embodied in the way we live, in the way we earn our bread, treat others, and navigate the complexities of life. True living is the art of aligning with the intrinsic order of the universe, where our lives become a reflection of the truth that we already are, a dance of integrity, compassion, and presence, where the abstract becomes tangible and the divine finds expression in the everyday. And when we're caught in the moment reflecting on our lives, the struggles, defeats, and victories, please remember that, while often obscured by the darkness and trials of life, truth will ultimately prevail. Because living truthfully isn't about remaining steadfast in one's values, being true to oneself and others, and maintaining hope in the face of adversity. Truth is something that upholds the good and the beautiful in the world, even in the midst of sorrow and struggle. And here, beloved Sangat, may we all discover truthful living. Please forgive my mistakes. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.